Hi everyone, Heather here from Felt Mercantile, and we are back for day 21 of our DIY Advent Calendar series. We had another request, so today we are going to be making some Christmas breakfast since we've done dinner. We're going to be making a circle waffle today. So for pieces, you're going to be needing all of the tan felt, and we're going to need 2 circles. And we are going to need some strips, so you're going to need 2 of the circle width size strips and 4 strips that are just a little shorter in length than these other strips. And then you'll be needing 4 of these tiny little strips, which are shorter than the other 2. And we will need 1 long strip for the outer edge, as well as our tan thread and our needle. And if you stick around till the end, I've got a tiny little extra project that you can add to this, just a little gift from me to you. So we are going to get started in a second. I will say that this is the pattern I use. It's just going to be waffled on the one side. We're not going to use any polyfill for this either, but you could do 2 sides of each side of the waffle with the strips. You'll just need to cut double the amount of strips, and then this strip will be a little bit wider if you want to add polyfill to this. So let me get set up and we will get started. See you in a second. Okay, we are going to start. I've got my tan thread on my needle here. We're just going to take one of the longer strips, and you're going to fold that in half lengthwise, hide your stitch on the inside, and we're just going to whip stitch along the whole bottom here. So whip stitch is come in through the bottom, out through the top, in through the bottom, out through the top, and you're just going to do that all the way along the very bottom edge just to seal this off. I'm going to do that, and I will see you in a moment for the next step of the project. Alright, so we've got a nice little finished strip here. I just folded it over, whip stitch across the bottom, and for the next step we are going to take this other strip and attach it, make a little plus. So without cutting your stitches, you're going to fold this in half just so you get the center there. Just make a very, very tiny little cut. Do not cut into your stitches. Oh, I'm going to have to be very careful with this, but tiny little cut. So we've got a cut in the center, and then we are going to do the same with this, except we're going to cut on just on the outside pieces. Just a little tiny bit. So little tiny snips on both of the outsides. So then we're going to go ahead and fold this over, do the same, just whip stitch along the very bottom, and we will be able to fit them together in a moment. So I'm going to do that, and I will show you our finished plus in just a second. Just as I was sewing, I'm just going to jump in here and give you a little tip. I realized if you just whip stitch along the half till the cut that you made, and then tie off, and then start again and then tie off at the end, that'll just make your life a little bit easier in the end. So I'm going to finish that and I will be back. Okay, so I've finished sewing these 2 little pieces here, and I'm just going to sandwich them together. And what I did before I started this project, just try and keep it as flush as you want, flush as you can, sorry. So before I started this project, I actually drew a grid on the inside of one of my pieces. We're not going to be seeing this, but I made the squares too small, so I have just reduced it by half. But just to give me an idea when I'm lining up, you will be making more cuts. So now that I've lined that up, I'm just going to go in the spaces that I have chosen to cut. Be careful not to cut your stitches, and you're just going to do 2 cuts. Oh, sorry, not 2. I guess it'll be 8, but just cuts along the lines that you're going to want to line these up. And we're just going to go back, whip stitch the bottom of all of our pieces and just kind of fit them in a grid. And rather than come back on every 3 seconds to show you each piece that I've done, I'm just going to finish my grid and show you the next step after that. So please, if you have any questions, write them in the comments below. But this is a pretty straightforward project. It's just a lot of sewing. So we will be doing quite a bit of sewing, but you're just going to want to go and make all your cuts where you want them. And then for the bottom of the other pieces, you'll go in the middle and cut those like we did for the second piece. So just take one of your strips and cut each side just on the little end bits there. You're going to want to whip stitch until you get to this little cut you made, tie off, and start again. So we're just going to do that with all of these little pieces, and we can fit them all together. And so when I come back in a second, I will show you the finished grid that we have made. All right, see you in a second. All right, so I am back. I have finished sewing all these little strips. So what we're actually going to have to do is cut into our stitches, which is usually something that I don't advise, except we're all going to be sewing this all together, so it's not really a huge deal. But we'll start with our plus, and I like to use this grid piece and just put my grid at the bottom. So I am lined up for sewing, and you'll just take your tan thread, and I'm just going to stitch actually the plus sign onto the base piece. So starting at one end here, it's easier to do this plus first. Just line it up with the bottom. Then you're going to come in on one side to anchor it. It helps if I do a big enough knot. We're going to be hiding all these stitches in the end, so it's not a huge deal at this moment. Actually, let's go, we'll just take the one. So start at the top corner and go through the bottom here, bottom of your strip. And we're just going to go back down on the other side of our line. Oops. Without picking up any of these extra little bits that you've made. I should probably move those off to the side for now. So we're just going to be going through and anchoring that on. Keep doing that up through the side. You can come in through the middle and down through the other side. So you can make all 3 stitches at once if you want, but we're just going to go along and attach this whole bit. I'm going to attach the other plus, and I'll show you what you'll be doing for the next step. All right, see you in a second. Okay, so I finished sewing our plus on here, and I've just placed the next 2 pieces. So what I did is I placed it on the grid, and I went and cut the tops of these where we're going to be fitting in the next pieces on this side here. So you're just going to want to attach these on the bottom the same way. Just line up with your grid. And to make your life a little easier, you can just fold over and then just whip stitch, making sure you're catching this strip here just all the way down to your grid. And I will be fitting in these pieces here as well, and I'll show you the cutting bit after I'm done finishing just one whole side, because we're going to be cutting these differently to fit them in the other way. So I will finish sewing this and I'll be back in a second. Okay, I have finished sewing these pieces on for our grid, and I've gone ahead and cut these middle ones, but I'll just show you what you'll be doing for the rest. So just line up the pieces that you have, and you're going to want to make cuts in the top that line up with the other cuts that we are going to be fitting our other pieces into. So you're going to want to go and cut all of those, and then we are going to be cutting into our stitches, but it's okay because we're going to be sewing this on. So you're actually just going to cut little lines along the bottom to make this easy to fit into this piece here. And we'll start with our center ones, just kind of sandwich them in. And you can make little adjustments if you need to, just to make sure it's all nice and square. So just go ahead, make all those cuts and sandwich in these pieces, and we're just going to sew them onto the back like we did with the other side. And then at the end, we should have all of our pieces sewn on like a grid, and I will show you what you can do to reinforce it. Okay, I'll be back in a second. All right, we are all done attaching all of our pieces. So what you can do to reinforce this is they're still not attached to the top. You can straighten these out to make your little squares, and you'll just want to come in the corner of a piece. You can do this with every single corner, but I'll just show you on this one. Come in from the bottom on a corner, just go straight through to the other side, and you can keep doing that just to attach these pieces together. You can come through to the side one here and do a little X through the other side, but we're just going to do that with each little piece, just so they are all nice and stuck together. Now there'll be other tutorials out there. I just realized this one is not a basic tutorial. This definitely takes a little bit more time. There's other tutorials out there that are much easier. They do involve glue, most of them, and I do not like using glue on my pieces because I know these are going in kids' mouths, and let's try and keep them away from toxic things as much as possible. So we've just reinforced that corner there, so just go ahead and do each one of those, and then I'm going to actually just trim off the little excess edges here, so we can start on the next bit. Just make sure it's all straightened out the way you like it before you trim your excess. Okay, I'll be back in a second and I will show you the final steps. Alright, so I've finished reinforcing and I've cut off all the edges. We're going to take our other circle part and place it on the bottom. Now I did have to go and cut down my other circle just a bit because our piece did get a little bit smaller since we've started sewing. So you're just going to go ahead, hide your knot on the inside and whip stitch the bottom piece to this top piece all the way around. Try not to get too much of this material, of the little ridges here. Just whip stitch all the way around and close it off, tie off at the end. And I'm going to come back in a moment and show you the very last step of this project. Alright, I'll see you in a second, guys. Alright, I am done sewing the bottom on there just so we hide our stitches. So the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to take our long strip here, and if it's easier on you, you can fold this in half and sew along, whip stitch along the whole bottom edge just to keep it flat. But because I've been doing this a while, it's just as easy for me to not whip stitch it, and you're just going to line it up with the bottom edge, and you're just going to do a whip stitch all the way around the piece. And then when you're done whip stitching this all the way around, you're just going to come in from the bottom and attach these end pieces here to the fabric, just from the sides, and that'll just give it the extra little bit of reinforcement that it needs. So when I come back in a moment, we will be done this project. I will see you in a sec, guys. And there we go, finished waffle. So that was this project today. I know it was a little labor intensive, but hopefully you got an awesome gift out of it to gift your kiddos in your life for this Christmas or any time of year really, if you're watching this later than Christmas. So as promised, I'm going to put this guy aside and I'm going to show you the bonus project that we have. So I like to make a little melted pat of butter for any sort of pancake, waffle, breakfasty thing that I'm going to be making. So you'll just be needing a little plus sign like this and two little pieces that fit together that just look like a little melt. And what I do, don't need stuffing for this either, but just hide your knot on the inside. You might want to use a little bit of lighter colored thread. Just whip stitch all the way along here. And once you're done that, I will come back and show you how we can finish up this project. All right, guys, we'll see you in a second. All right, I've finished sewing my bottom melt piece. Now I'm just going to fold over each little corner here. You're just going to whip stitch each one of those until we get kind of a little square. Then we're just going to place that on top. You can use a tiny little bit of polyfill if you like the look of it. And we're just going to whip stitch this onto the piece. I like to put it on one of the sides. Line it up with one of the sides. So I'm going to do that and I will come back in a moment to show you the finished product. All right, that's it, guys, and we are done. We've got a little butter for our waffle, and that was today's project and bonus project. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again from Felt Mercantile. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up below and subscribe to our channel. And definitely hit that alert bell so you stay up to date on all the videos that we're posting. And if you have any requests for future videos, it will probably be in January that we'll be filming. We're going to go back to our regular filming schedule of every Thursday after the holidays. So thanks again, guys. Don't forget to share, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 22. Bye.